We are back at the second half of our school board meeting on June 1st, 2023. Nate Subbert, the athletic director, is ready to present his findings. Proposal.
All right, so last year about this time, I came to you requesting that we move our middle school sports teams from the Capital Area League to the Central Maine League, which the Central Maine League consists of bigger schools, more our size, in hopes that we would have better competition and prepare our middle school athletes better for high school. However, after being in the Central Maine League for this full school year, we have found that to not be the case for many reasons. Competition level wasn't any better. It may have been worse than the Capital Area League. The travel distance was a little bit further, which I had stated last year when I presented this to you, but it was also further for parents too, because their drive was a little bit more. They had different rules that didn't necessarily gel with what we had been doing here at our middle school in the Capital Area League, and there was no postseason, which was that was a big piece. You know, our athletes played to be competitive, and they like to have a postseason, which the Capital Area League provided, and the Central Maine League did not. So for those reasons, I come to you with my tail between my legs, asking if we can potentially move back to the Capital Area League next year and for future years.
So the agenda needs to be adjusted. It says back to Central Maine. It should say back to Capital Area.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
They had different rules?
Oh yeah. Don't even get me
Like,
started.
what does that mean?
Like different rules for each individual sport, like different rules for basketball, different rules for softball, tying our hands, different rules for philosophy. They had strictly a 7th grade team and an 8th grade team. Prior to that, we had like a JV and a varsity philosophy here, which the Capital Area League adopts as well, which was actually it was the very first thing that I came to the school board to change when I was the athletic director. Yeah. You know, with all those things and multiple discussions with parents, and I had a lot of feedback from parents over the course of the year that were requesting the same thing, and I was in full favor of moving back after halfway through the year after we saw some potential problems.
The news is we don't know what we don't know.
Exactly. We tried it, didn't work.
You can always change your mind.
Yep.
That's right. So, any other comments?
No
or
problem
questions?
going back to the
No, actually,
capital area?
no, not at all. We've actually been approved already. I mentioned it to the president there. I said it is a possibility. I'm gonna propose it to the school board. He went ahead and already voted on it, so we've already been accepted back to the Capital Area League.
Good.
Well, then I think we should.
Would you like to make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve your proposal to switch back to the capital area.
Thank you.
I would
Second.
that.
Seconded by me. Any more questions or comments? We're gonna save gas. It's gonna be so great. All those
Great.
in favor?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well done.
Thank you.
Sure.
So, second reason I'm here. And first, before I get going on this, I want to thank Jen Boudreau. She's our track and field and cross country coach at the high school, and she did a lot of the legwork on this next proposal. So I want to thank her very much for all the work that she did. She's an outstanding asset to our athletes and to our sports programs at the high school for sure. So the next one, and in my 5 years as athletic director here, we've never had any requests for athletes to participate in dual sports in the same season. This was the first year, and I probably had 3 or 4 athletes requesting to play 2 sports. We do currently have it in our handbook that athletes cannot participate in 2 sports in the same season. However, I was willing to listen to the discussion. Jen and I talked extensively. She formed a committee that involved some coaches and some athletes, did some research. I did some research on my end as well. And this is essentially the proposal that we came up with. And I believe you all have a copy.
No, I don't think it wasn't finalized.
Can you highlight it?
Okay, I wasn't sure if there was a packet.
Oh, it is, yes,
Oh.
it is in there.
Okay,
It was in the first packet that went out to you.
Oh.
So if you go online, it's there.
on the yellow one?
So I'll just kind of highlight,
Mine, I have it.
I'll just kind of outline some of the key points that we came up with in this proposal, is that dual sport athletes would have to participate, if they wanted to participate, they'd have to participate in dual sport. They'd have to claim what sports they wanted to participate in before the actual season started, so before the first day of tryouts, essentially. They could not participate in 2 team sports per season, with the exception being football and another team sport. So for example, if somebody who played soccer wanted to kick on the football team, that would be allowed. And it specifically kicker, punter, and that would be it, no other position player. So we specifically outlined what sports would be eligible for athletes to participate in 2 sports, and those would be individual sports and team sports. So in the fall, cross-country and golf athletes could participate in cross-country and golf, and also a team sport. In the winter season, it would be wrestling, ski, and swim. Those athletes would be eligible to participate in a team sport as well. And the spring season would be tennis, track, and field. So those athletes would be able to participate in a team sport. And again, the exception being football. There are strict eligibility guidelines. Coaches, athletes, parents, and myself and the principal would have to sign off on each individual athlete getting permission from all of us to participate in dual sport per season, because it is a huge commitment. There's, there's extra physical strain because they're going to be participating in 2 different sports. There's extra time commitment. Eligibility issues with academics is key. One of the things that we talked about is, we do have an eligibility policy at the high school as far as academics are concerned, but we think that if an athlete decides to participate in 2 sports in the same season, then we should be outlining exactly what that looks like as far as academics. So on here we noted that if a student becomes ineligible at any point in time throughout the course of the season, then they automatically have to eliminate participating in one of those sports. So those are some of the discussions that we had. And I reached out to the other athletic directors in our conference, in the Kennebec Valley Athletic Conference, to see how many schools provide that opportunity for athletes. And of the 28 schools that I sent the survey to, I had 18 ADs respond, and it was 55% that allow dual sports and 45% that don't allow dual sports. I did receive a lot of comments. There was a lot of feedback from those athletic directors, a lot of concerns about how it's handled in each individual school. Even those schools who do allow it, they still had concerns over having it because there are always issues that come up. And I also sent it out to all of our coaches, and the response from the coaches was similar. We had 60% of our coaching staff that was in favor, but 40% had comments on other things and concerns. So it was relatively close between the amount of schools in our conference that allowed dual sport participation and the kind of results that we got from asking our coaches about it. Yes.
Do the coaches have a plan in place for when games and practices are in conflict?
Yeah, so it would be the team sport, whatever team sport they declare, that would take priority over the individual sport. So let's say, for example, there's an athlete that's playing softball and running track and field in the spring. They would have to participate in that softball game if there's a track meet on the same day.
This is a question I always have.
Yep.
What about mandatory study halls where they actually do work, where the athletes actually have guided study halls so that they don't fall behind? And I would hate to set up something for failure for any student. So is there a way, if they have a study hall in their schedule, that it's a mandated attendance to make sure that they aren't going home after two sporting events with homework?
That's a great question. One that I don't know the answer to. I think that would be a Chad or Lauren question to see if there's a way to do that staffing wise.
And I feel like that sends a message to the student and the parents that your education is first.
Right.
And we're committed to making sure that
Yeah.
that's something that
Yep.
happens well.
Yeah, and that was Pat's concern too, when I sent the proposal to her is, I think we need to be very specific on how we handle the eligibility policy, or the eligibility part in regards to dual sport athletes, because yes, we want to send the message that it's academics first.
And I don't know if that's anything that could happen through the learning lab, and I know there's a stigma that probably accompanies that, but the important thing is if you wanna play your sport, you gotta have your work done.
Right.
That's number one.
Yep.
And I support it otherwise, cause I think a lot of kids go to school for that,
Right.
So,
How do you feel personally about it? Do you think it's workable?
Personally, I'm on the fence. I'll be completely transparent. When some athletes came to me initially, I was like, I just don't see, because I'm trying to play devil's advocate and think of all the things that can go wrong. Administratively, how are we gonna handle this? So I'm on the fence. I told Jen, I'm on the fence. I wanna provide as many opportunities to our athletes as we possibly can. If it means allowing an athlete to participate in 2 sports, I'm for that. When it starts to become more work or more of a hassle than it's worth, then I'm not for it. But again, we don't know it until we try it, and that's kind of like what we did for our middle school league going to Central Maine League.
How about a probation year?
That's exactly what I was thinking. So something similar to that, just to kind of see how it goes. I don't know what kind of response we're gonna get to this. I don't know how many, we've had 3 or 4 ask about it this year, but a couple of those are graduating. So I don't know what the interest is going to be next year. I don't know how many people are actually gonna take advantage of it. And we give us a year to kind of work out the kinks and see what any potential problems.
How about if we just put it in place, we make a motion is for this coming school year as a trial period, and it's got a sunset on it. If it doesn't work out, then go back to, there's nothing that has to be done at that point.
right.
You'll be back here next year and saying, it worked well, I'd like to continue it. But if it didn't work well, stay home.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that it's good for one, that we approve this proposal for the next school year, and that it has a sunset on the last day of school, and that if wishes to continue, Nate will have to come back to the board next year and propose an ongoing program.
I second that.
Would you entertain a friendly amendment?
No. Yeah, what you need.
Just, that there's some guardrails in there for protections of the students, making sure that they get their homework done, that they're academics.
Absolutely. And
There's
that
some
a tutoring, I would like
study
to,
hall.
like a study hall.
Or those particulars to be worked out by the administration. But I
You
just,
made the amendment, I'm gonna shut up.
yeah,
I would ask that you don't make an amendment like that, because we don't know the implications of your amendment and whether
See
we
the
can
parental
even,
look.
right, we can't find tutors.
Yeah.
I don't know the implications with study halls. I worked with Nate and with Jen, to make sure that we really strengthen the academic eligibility requirement.
okay.
And I would respectfully request that you give us a year to see how this works, because we
That's
spend
fine.
so much time on it.
Yep.
And if it doesn't work, then maybe next year when the building principal is here, to be able to say I could do X, Y, and Z to strengthen it. That's really fun.
If
Becky,
I could just-
we already spent half the meeting talking about unfunded mandates, so
I
let's.
know,
not go back to
yeah.
that.
Let's end with a bang.
If I could just add to that a little bit too, so
Yeah.
part of it, Becky, is that, like, it's gonna have to be we're all gonna have to approve this. I'm gonna have to approve it, the coaches are going to have to approve it, the principal is going to have to approve it. And one of the first things that we're gonna look at is, what's their academic record?
Gotcha.
Do we feel that this athlete can handle this? And if we don't, we'll say no.
So it's got guardrails all over it.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, and if we see them starting to slide academically, which
Yep.
we get those reports every 2 weeks,
Yep.
then we're gonna have conversations and possibly pull the plug.
Okay.
Yes.
Kaylee too, Kaylee will sign off as well.
Yes, Kaylee, the trainer, she signs off as well.
Oh, great.
So-
Okay,
So
good.
she's involved in this too, because, there is a concern of overuse, of
Right.
overworking athletes. And these athletes, they're not just involved in the activities that we have here, that athlete may be allowed to now do dual sports for us, but they may be playing an AAU team outside, so now they're participating in three
Right.
teams potentially. So there's a lot that goes on,
Where
we
you
don't
are, yeah.
necessarily see.
Correct, correct. All right, then, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
I'm sorry, but one last quick question.
I love
And I apologize if you said this, I didn't absorb it. What is the threshold for deciding the student is still on par for their academics? Is it a grade level?
So yeah, every 2 weeks, we do eligibility checks for all of our athletes in the school. And so what we decided is that if at any point in time, a dual sport athlete becomes ineligible, they will lose the privilege of participating in a second team or second sport.
And is that a particular grade point average, or what?
No, it's based on whether they're passing or failing classes. So there's a warning status and then there's ineligible status. So whenever they become ineligible. So they could become on warning status and still participate on both teams, but once they become ineligible, then they would lose the privilege of participating on two sports.
Okay, because I would hate to say no to a student who is ambitious and has goals and they
Yep.
really want to achieve something, but that is excellent. But if we get into a place where we're unfairly saying yes to some kids because they're a really good player,
Yep.
but no to other kids because they're on the margin line, that would not be good.
Right.
So I love the fact you got at least 5 people signing off on the eligibility.
Great, so, all those in favor? Yes. Thank you for your question, Colin, it was a good one. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You.
Excellent. Let's see, Sage.
So Sage, yes, so Sage Scully would like to recommend her as for the junior student representative position to the board, next year. So what this process includes, is that Alyssa and I went to a sophomore class meeting, and we announced, this vacancy, on the school board, explained what the position entails, what the commitment level. Alyssa spoke to them about the value of having a student rep on the board. And we left packets which included requiring any student who was interested in filling out an application form, having signatures from the student body from every single class to demonstrate that they could represent the entire student body and not just a particular class, and a letter of recommendation from a teacher. Also, we looked at their transcript. And so we had one applicant this year who was Sage, but Sage is just an excellent student, incredibly capable, positive. She is going to be president of the Interact Club next year, which is a part of Rotary, which really falls in line with the strategic listening feedback about building our connections to the community. And so to have a student who is already president of this Interact, which is built on community service, is really exciting. She is also a member of the robotics team, civil rights team, so a little more non-traditional, I think, than some of the students that we've had in the past. But that's the process. Tony, Becky, and I then met with her for about 45 minutes earlier this week and talked to her, made sure once again that she understood what the requirements would be, what we were looking for, and thought she was great. So.
And that was an interview. I mean, Pat provided the script, which is a pretty traditional interview set of questions, and we went through that. And Sage had great, answers, great presence. Really was able to kind of hold her own for the 45 minutes. I think we meant to meet actually kind of a briefer meeting, and it just kept going. So it seemed like, again, it seemed like a good interview process there, and she's great.
We sort of interviewed each other. She was the only one, so it was kind of easier to just have a back and forth conversation with the questions there as sort of the backdrop, so that we could just interview each other. It was really good. She's a smart, lovely girl. Yeah, she'll be good.
And I really liked, her bringing some of her other experiences into here, and she had I think a good sense of where that leadership role that she's at with Interact fits in.
I agree, yeah, she was good. Yes, Diane?
Just have a comment. She sounds wonderful. How come we don't get more boys to do this? I don't know. I haven't seen any.
I think we've only had one, right? I don't know.
Must be something they don't. I don't know.
I think we've had more boys interviewed, in the past.
Uh-huh.
I don't recall how many we selected through the interview process,
I
over
just
the last
remember
12
one
years.
being- But I don't know why. I don't know.
Just curious.
Yeah, public service is an interesting thing, and sometimes it takes a while to figure that out, and high school might be early and soon for that, I don't know. But I think it's a great experience. and
Yeah.
I encourage all of our kids to give back.
Yeah, I love seeing them, being, talking to them. It's wonderful, but I just wondered.
Yeah, I don't know, sometimes
No
it just
answer. I don't
catches
know.
on later,
Yeah.
hopefully. Okay,
So we need a
motion, and we have a.
I would move to appoint Sage, accept her appointment, for Sage Kelly as student representative, the junior student rep.
That's seconded by Jack. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Excellent. Welcome, Sage, wherever you are.
She's at the academic boards night,
Right,
right?
Planned this perfectly. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is we talk about this every year at this meeting, and that is that, once school ends, we still have positions to fill, and we could meet every time that the superintendent wants to extend a contract to somebody, which means we might be in here every week, hiring one or not hiring one, or we can give her that responsibility to entrust her with that job to hire and extend contracts through the summer, and then at the August meeting, we will learn who they are. But she can do that work, and we don't then miss great candidates for our positions that we need positions for, because now is when people are looking, so we need to snag them up.
So I have to do my spiel, that those of you who've been on board have heard it. I have to do
I
it.
know you do,
I wanna
yep.
be really, really clear that the law specifically states that when you hire a teacher, it's a three-part process. The first process is that I have to bring the name to you and make a recommendation. Part two is that you have to approve and accept that recommendation. And part three is that I issue a contract. And so if any three of those parts fail or they don't happen, then technically someone is not hired. So what you're consequently doing is giving up part two, right? And we're going from me just issuing a contract directly. Yes, I will come back to the board, I will share who that is, but a contract will have already been issued. It is a very common practice that happens across the state. But technically, it's never been, I think, argued in court. Should anyone dispute that we are overstepping that process. Again, common practice, and Becky, you were right. If you don't give me that authority, we'll just need to meet on a regular and frequent basis. But I don't feel right in asking you to grant me the authority without you understanding the legal implications and what the law really specifically outlines.
Pat, what's the maximum individual contract you expect to issue during the summer recess period?
The maximum number?
No, maximum individual contract amount. We can just put a guardrail on it, say you can't issue a contract more than 100,000 is that for?
Oh, you have bargaining units, so I have to follow the bargaining agreements. So there is no particular safeguard in that regard, because I have to issue the salary based on your negotiated bargaining agreement. No, it would never be $100,000, but you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
That
do.
based upon their years of experience, I have to follow the negotiated agreement.
And they enter on whatever step they're
So are you looking for authority beyond just salary contracts? Because this just says contracts, like you could run out and buy a whole new building.
This is just salary contracts to be able to hire teachers, right? Because I already have the authority to hire support staff. That's already within my authority. This is to just hire teachers. I would not hire an administrator, per se, without going through the board. That is a much bigger process. So administrators would come to you. Not that I'm expecting any resignations from any administrators. Right?
She's giving us
Please
the
don't do
eye.
that. Please don't do that to
That's a
me.
big hot baby.
So we are only talking about teacher contracts.
If we could just amend the phrasing of the motion, I'm perfectly satisfied with that.
Teacher salary contracts, yeah.
You might repave the whole district while we're gone.
There we go.
What a great surprise that is. All right, so.
Yes, and of course, coaches or anyone under that professional contract. So like instructional coaches, psychological evaluators, anyone around that professional type of position.
Yes, Jim.
I was thinking about this coming in here today, and I could have saved us about 15 minutes.
Sorry, I have to go through the spiel.
I move that we give Pat the authority to hire the teachers that are necessary for next year. We'll cover the rest later.
Second by Tony. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Perfect. Thank you guys very much.
New
Yeah, you just wait till you get back, right?
Yuck, yuck, yuck. Strategic plan update.
No updates. since
No
last
update.
meeting.
Okay. Board chair report. So on the 6th of June, which is next Tuesday, we will have our budget hearing at Gardner Area High School in the gymnasium at 6 p.m. I would ask all board members to be there by 5 minutes till 6.
No.
No.
I would ask all board members to be there at 5:45.
She
no
would
later,
do that.
Because you need to make sure that well, one, there's parking, but also you need to make sure that you go to your town's clerk
And
so
get
that,
your-
right, so that you can vote, right? You need to get your card so that you can vote. And certainly, we want to be able to begin exactly at 6 o'clock. So to make sure that you're there, that you're seated, you know where you're going, being there 15 minutes early would be advisable.
Advisable. And you know I always run early, so. It would also be great if all of you came. We really need, it's a scripted, we go article by article, so it's really important that everyone
And our
does
attorney,
come.
Greg M. is the moderator.
Yes, yeah, so. That's Tuesday at 6 in the high school gym. Then on Tuesday the 13th is the budget validation referendum, the day that you get to vote yes on the school budget. We would ask all of you to do that as well.
And just a reminder, we just ask people to vote, we can't tell people how to vote. So we can't tell people to vote yes, sorry, it's please vote.
Vote, just vote, early and often. Thank you, Jack. Special board meeting to accept the budget referendum will be on Thursday, June 15th. So once the decision has been made about the budget, we have to come back here and say, yes, we accept these results.
And what time would you like that meeting?
What time would you guys like it? 5:30?
Is it like a single vote meeting?
Well, Jim has asked that we add an update on the status of the special education ESY program. But other than that, yes, I think all we have is this. However, if I hire anyone between now and June 15th, I would add them to the agenda.
This is how it grows, everyone.
Yeah.
This is how it grows.
5:30.
5:30? 5:30? 5:30.
Okay.
It's gonna be a major challenge for me to be there, I think, probably for legislator stuff.
Okay. We'll be in touch. Feel free to reach out to me if you can't, and I will ask Martha to send a reminder email, just so that everyone is reminded and poked to be here. And last but not least is our MSBA Assembly Delegate for the main School Boards Association Fall Conference. We will be having, resolutions will be coming out earlier, again, like they did last year, July, August, so that there'll be plenty of opportunity to look at the resolutions that the Resolutions Committee has been working on for Fall Conference. So we do need a delegate to attend the delegate assembly. I believe it's going to be online again. Yes, Jim?
I was thinking Jack might make a good representative for us.
Cannot.
He can, I know it's tough.
It conflicts with his job.
I think she'd do a good job for us, he'd do a good job for us.
Yeah, just it
Thank you.
conflicts with his job, it's a
Sorry.
conflict of interest. And it is on Saturday, October 21st,
Yes.
and it is virtual. So we don't need to appoint anyone today.
So everyone, keep it on your radar of desired things to do.
But if you would think about it,
We only need one.
October 21st.
October 21st on Saturday, I don't have a time and it is virtual.
And it won't probably, I'll say it won't be long, but it'll then be longer. It's usually about an hour and a bit.
But it depends if there are
It
hot
depends.
topics.
Yeah, and
It's
so,
lasted 3 hours before.
yes, it has. Yeah, but I don't know that there's many, I mean, we're really trying to clean it up so that it's, so that the language is really clean and good and there won't be necessarily a lot of amendments to it, so keep it kind of quick.
You said that's in October?
Yeah, October 21st.
Can we push that to the next board meeting? I'll volunteer to get a backup, but I think everybody should have a chance to volunteer as like, I wanna do it first.
Yeah,
Nobody else will do it, I'm willing.
Thank you, Colin, I appreciate that.
I will say
I was gonna work in my Halloween costume that day.
I love that idea even more. What are you gonna be?
I will,
It's online, you can do both.
I will add it to the August agenda.
Perfect.
And you also were going to do committee assignments.
Yes, now I need to get, I gotta get online.
No, they're in your
What's in the
packet.
packet? Everyone, you should have, I guess, I didn't look in the packet. My computer too. So you should have your committee assignments, I'm told. And I'm hopeful that you love them.
Thank you. Ask for
I don't know.
Those are cool points.
It may have been just a,
That I hadn't asked you yet, I wanted to
Question.
just make
Oh,
sure,
point.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure you were happy to do that.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be an interesting one, so. For policy, we have Tony as chair, Matt Lillibridge, Jack Pitteroff, Molly Rogers, and Cullen. For finance, Becky Fless, Megan Carlson, Jack Pitteroff, Chris McLaughlin, Colin McGuff, and Jeff Hanley. Curriculum, Melissa Tracy, Jeff Hanley, Diane Potter, and Tony Veet, Anthony Veet, Megan Carlson, and Jim Lothridge. And negotiations, Becky Fluss, Chris McGowan, Melissa Tracy, Tony Veet, and Molly Rogers. Capital Area Technical Center Committee is Jim Lothridge. Turf Field Committee is Becky Fluss, and Dropout Prevention, Megan Carlson. Any questions or? All right.
So
Next, yes, superintendent's report.
all right, just making sure that I remind you that we are heading into the summer hours for the central office, beginning the week of June 20th. And so what that generally means is that we are closed to the public on Fridays. That's when, during the summer months, many of our folks will work like 4 10-hour days, or they might take some vacation time on Fridays. So we're closed to the public. I'm not yet certain, but we may close the office July 4th, that particular week, given where it falls, and just, again, people trying to fit in vacation time. It's really hard to keep that door open, to keep our office open. The door, to open the door to our office requires a computer, so we have to have someone, either Martha or someone upstairs who has their computer on. So even though there may be people in their business office, or we may be there, if we don't have our support staff working, then we're unable to manage the front door. So that's part of the rationale behind the scenes, so. And then that will be through the month of August, and once school resumes, probably, I think it's around August 25th, that Friday we'll begin working again, so. All right, we'll be back to full schedule. All right, graduation is next Saturday, June 10th at 5 o'clock at the Civic Center. I need to know how many tickets. So, Jim?
6.
Okay, is that on top of the tickets that the family is already receiving? Every student receives some tickets.
Oh, I don't know how much they got. I've got a daughter, her wife, and my granddaughter coming.
Okay, I will check with Mr. Kempton to see how many. Oftentimes families receive 7 tickets, depending upon the size of the senior class. So I'll look
Okay.
and see. Okay.
But I need to make sure I've got enough tickets.
Yes.
'Cause we've got people coming from I know his godmother and are coming from Texas and her partner.
Okay, we'll make sure. I'll find out how many,
Okay.
and then we'll communicate, and
Okay.
so you know how many, and then you can tell me how many more you need.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
all right, Cullen,
None for me, thank
Megan,
2, please.
Becky,
None for me, I'll be on the stage.
okay. Tony?
Could I get 2, please?
Jack?
Can't do it this year, no.
Okay. Jack?
Not at this time, no.
All right, and I will check with the others. All right, and then the last thing I have is I actually, something that crossed our desk today. We have good news where we have a out-of-district placement for a special needs student that is going to be able to transition back into the school. Really excited that the student is doing incredibly well, and we're excited that the student will be able to return. However, with that return, it does require an ed tech. So it's an ed tech that we don't have in the budget. So I'm not sure how you want to proceed, whether you want to officially approve the hiring of an ed tech that is specific for this student so that the student can successfully transition back into the day program, or how you want to do that.
I'm sorry to jump immediately to the money, but do we expect to save from the placement,
Yes,
but we'll pay for the tax, so we'll have a net gain of
yes,
some
yes.
size, okay.
Probably about half price, won't it?
I
For
don't
Jones.
know that, in that particular out-of-district placement, I'm not sure what the cost for that placement. Also, there's a savings with transportation.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, when you
because
put them all
student-
together, I'll bet it's about half.
Yeah, it could be slightly more than that depending
Yeah.
on. But, so, are you comfortable in us just doing it, knowing it's a savings, or do you want to officially approve hiring, another ed tech for that particular student? Meaning, if something happens and that student moves, right, they move out of the district, then we'll no longer, employ that ed tech or that particular position.
That position is tied to that
That
student.
position is gonna be tied to that student. Now, we may shift people around, right, so it's not always one person with one student, because a student can become too dependent on the one person, but that position is going to be tied to that student.
What is your recommendation?
I'm always happy just to be transparent and just have the board approve, understanding the implications, so if you don't mind.
Approve a specific ed tech for this student.
For that one student.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jim. Second, Tony, other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Great, thank you. And that's all that I have.
Excellent.
So now you need to go into executive session, and will there be a vote? I think there'll be a vote coming out of executive session. Okay.
So we need a motion, and Colin, you had a motion?
It was just one of appreciation, I don't think that's the one, your actual,
I will ask them for a motion to extend the superintendent's contract for 3 years till 2026, and a 4% increase each year.
For clarification, it's extending my contract by 1 year,
Yes.
2026.
Yes.
Uh,
That's right. You already have it to 2025, right?
So moved.
So moved, second. Diane, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank
all.
you. You may pass, everyone. Thank you, Carrie. We still don't have internet?
Is that it? We're done?
We're done.